Hello and welcome to the WorldQuant University Introduction to Data Science module. This video will introduce you to the different platforms we use to teach the course, how lecture material is distributed, how assignments work, and how you can interact with your instructors. You should have received an email with username and password credentials for logging into the JupyterHub platform as well as a discussion board. We'll be talking through both of these platforms beginning with the JupyterHub. So if you visit the link in the email that takes you to the JupyterHub login, you'll see a page like this one. And you'll just put your username and password into those fields and hit sign in. And then you should be taken to a home page containing information about how the course is run. It describes how the course is taught through using a combination of lecture videos, Jupyter notebooks, and streaming office hours. It links to the discussion board. It describes how assignments work. And it also contains a link to this video should you ever need to revisit this information. This page also contains a syllabus for the course, and again, a description of the discussion board and a link to it. This landing page also has some tabs you can use for accessing video content and your grades. So this first tab, Video Links, shows the schedule of office hours in UTC. This schedule may change, so make sure to visit this page and check the video schedule before, planning to attend office hours, as these times may change from course to course or even during a course if required. Below the schedule is a detailed calendar of every video contained within the course. Currently, there are no video lectures recorded yet, so this schedule or calendar is just a list of office hours. Each office hour will happen at the time listed. This time is in your local time. These times are in UTC. This time is in your local time. And each YouTube link will take you to the accompanying video. So when this office hour live streams, you could come here at that time and participate in the office hour. To participate in the office hour, your instructor will be live streaming their screen and voice via this video, and you can chat with them using the chat box adjacent to the video, either next to it or below, depending on how you've configured your UI on YouTube. So you can ask questions live of the instructor at those times. There are 4 one-hour office hours every week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. As the instructors record video lectures, those lecture videos will also be added to this calendar. Once a lecture video is posted here, you can access it with the link. Some students may not have constant access to the internet, and so if you cannot access the internet reliably, you may want to use this Video Downloads tab. The Video Downloads tab links to a shared folder where instructors will upload video files as the videos are created. So lectures and office hours will also be accessible through this Video Downloads tab. And finally, as the course proceeds and you are completing assignments, you can monitor your progress using this Grades tab. Your grades should show up here as you complete assignments, which we call mini projects. If you're ever unsure if you completed a question or what score you might have got on it, you can check using this tab. So, to access the Jupyter notebooks, which contain lecture notes as well as assignments, we'll have to start our JupyterHub notebook server. We do that by clicking this Start My Server button. And when we do so, it should take us to a screen with a progress bar like this as our server launches. It will take time for your server to launch. The first time you start the server, it may take 10 or 15 minutes. You can see if you've run the server before, it will take less time, but it still may take a few minutes for the server to start each time. Once you're logged into the server and it's started, you will see a directory structure like this one. All the course content is contained in the data course directory. In this course, we can see there are two modules, Python and data wrangling. Depending on which course you're in, you may see different course material here. Each set of lecture notes are contained within a IPython notebook. This notebook contains lecture notes about Python data structures. You can follow along with the lecture video by loading one of these notebooks by clicking on it and executing the cells in the notebook alongside the video. A major advantage of this form of lecture notes is they serve as a companion to the videos where you can make your own notes and run your own experiments. Here we've printed out the types of some different kinds of data in Python. If we were curious about another type of data, for example, the null value none, we could add a cell and run this code that we write ourselves. We can also add cells for making notes, like markdown cells, if we want to remind ourselves of something. Feel free to augment these notebooks and run your own experiments while listening to lectures or doing independent study. Note that if you're going to modify a notebook, you may want to first create a copy by clicking the checkbox next to it and duplicating it. This will create a copy so that you can have the original version and then your own version that you've annotated and added coding experiments to. There will be more material about how to use Jupyter notebooks in the first lecture. There's also a mini projects folder in each course module. In the mini projects folder, there are notebooks corresponding with different assignments. The first assignment is called IN for Introduction. Each mini project uses a grader program to grade your submissions of solutions to the project. This mini project is very simple and is meant to introduce you to how the grader functions and how you will complete assignments. The mini project contains instructions posing different questions and problems to you to solve. This mini project, in the first problem, asks you to compute the 5 smallest non-negative even numbers. And it asks us to put these in a list. Here, we've gotten a start for you by creating a variable called even numbers and creating a list of 5 zeros. We can see that by evaluating the variable even numbers, and we see a list of 5 zeros. In many mini project questions, we will give you some help like this. This illustrates the form that your final answer should take, a list containing 5 numbers. In more advanced mini projects, you may need to construct more complex data structures. There will usually be an example showing what the data structure should look like, but with only partially correct or incorrect contents for answering the question. We can submit our answer, even numbers, to the grader by running the grader.score cell. Sometimes when you run the grader.score cell, you may encounter an error. We're in the process of debugging this, so hopefully this doesn't happen to you. But if you run it again, the problem should fix itself. The grader will either return an error message or a score. Since our answer was correctly formatted, it returned a score. Our score is 0 because none of these numbers in the list are the first 5 even numbers. Let's try a different answer. Here's the first 5 numbers greater than 0. If we score this solution, our score is now 0.4. 2 out of the 5 numbers are correct. So we have a 40% grade. In order to pass the course, you must achieve above a 0 score on every question in every assignment. If you maintain an average score above 0.9 across all questions, you will additionally pass the course with honors and be granted a certificate with the honors distinction. Finally, we'll change our answer to the correct answer. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And we see we achieve now a score of 1. Depending on which course you're taking and which mini project you're working on, it may be possible to achieve scores higher than 1 and less than 0. Most questions, it will only be possible to score between 0 and 1. Many questions will have this form, where you calculate a data structure and pass that data structure to the grader. However, some problems require you to pass a function to the grader. In problem 2, we ask you to define a function that accepts a list of numbers and returns a list where each element is multiplied by 10. Again, we get you started by defining a mult function that accepts an argument numbers and returns a list of zeros equal in length to the number of inputs. We can run this cell to define the function, and then the grader.score cell to pass that function to the grader. Our function doesn't score very well because it doesn't do what the problem asked, to multiply each element of the input by 10 and return them in a list. I'll leave it to you to rewrite this function to get a higher score on problem 2. But keep in mind that what's happening when we pass this function to the grader is the grader contains test cases to input for this argument numbers. Grader will supply numbers to your mult function and then check that the output of the mult function matches what the grader expects. All problems in the mini projects will either be similar to problem 1, where we calculate a data structure and pass it to the grader, or like problem 2, where we define a function and pass it to the grader. Be careful to read all instructions in the mini project. For example, it's important that the question name in the grader.score cell is not modified. If you modify the question name, the grader will not be able to find the question that you are working on, and you will not be able to complete the assignment. Other than office hours, if you have questions about the course content, a great place to take your questions is the discussion board. There's a link to the discussion board on your JupyterHub control panel and in the email we sent you with your credentials. This discussion board is modeled on Stack Overflow, if you're familiar with Stack Overflow. For those of you who aren't, the idea is that questions should not only be useful to the people who ask them, but anyone else who might be wondering about material on the same thing. Therefore, it's important to follow certain guidelines when asking questions or answering questions on the discussion board. I've written an example question for you to illustrate how we should ask questions. Notice that this question has a descriptive title that concisely summarizes what the question is about. How do we turn dictionaries into a list of tuple pairs containing key value pairs? This question not only describes the context for the question, but also a plain language description of what I am trying to do. It additionally contains code examples illustrating what code I am running in order to try and solve my problem. When asking a question, you should always include what you have done to try to solve the problem, including a plain English description of what you've done and code illustrating what code you've run. Another way to help direct people to your question, whether to answer it or if other people are wondering the same thing, is to add tags to the question. This question is tagged with PW, dict, and data structures, because the question is about dictionaries, dict, and tuples, both of which are data structures. The question is also relevant to the PW mini project, so I've tagged it PW. If you think a question is helpful to others, you should click the up arrow button beside it, which will allow you to upvote the question. You can't vote for your own posts, so unfortunately I can't show you what happens, but if you click this up arrow, this 0 will increment to 1. And when this discussion board has many more questions on it, upvoted questions will float to the top. This helps users, or like other students like yourself, as well as instructors like me, find the most relevant questions. You can also add comments to questions to ask clarifying questions of the original poster, or to add clarifying comments. Finally, if you think you know the answer to a question, you should supply an answer. Answers, again, should have a plain language description of the approach and code examples if relevant. You can also upvote comments and helpful answers. If someone's answered a question you've asked, you should mark it as correct by clicking the check mark next to the answer. You can also add comments on answers. So remember to include a descriptive title and a well-written question and tags when asking questions on the discussion board. There are several rules that your instructor will enforce on the discussion board. First of all, please search on the discussion board search function to see if someone's already asked a question like yours. For example, if I was wondering how to turn dictionaries into tuples, I might search for dictionary and tuple. In the search results, I see the question that's already been asked about this topic. Search for questions before asking them. Duplicate questions may be locked or removed from the discussion board. Also, do not post questions as answers. If you see a question that you are also wondering about, comment on it. Don't answer it with another question. Questions are not answers and create confusion on the discussion board. Finally, if you need to update a question, don't post new questions and don't post updates as answers. You can always edit an existing question to add more information. Finally, you may notice that there's a variety of different formatting styles in this question. For example, some of the text is typeset or styled in a mono-spaced font. When sharing code, it's important to format it as code. If you're ever adding code to a question, such as this, you can format it as code by highlighting it and then clicking this code button at the top of your text entry box. When we click that, it indents the code 4 spaces. And we can see if we save this message, oh, that did not work quite as I expected. I believe it's because, let me put it somewhere else. So we can see in the preview, and additionally if we save this edit, that code that was indented 4 spaces is now formatted in a code block. This helps other students and instructors read your code. It's very difficult to read code that is formatted as regular text. So please, please, please make sure to do this. Your efforts in maintaining a good style on the message board will help yourself and other students build up a valuable resource for learning together throughout the course. Finally, I'll give a brief introduction into how to use a Jupyter notebook. You can create new Jupyter notebooks by clicking New, Python 3 Notebook. This is a fresh notebook. Notebooks are interactive environments where we can write code and text and images formatted in a variety of ways. Code cells will show code in this drop-down menu. I can also change it to Markdown if I want to write text or make images. Code cells can be executed to evaluate Python code. Note all of our notebooks and platform run Python 3. You can also you can evaluate code a variety of ways. There is a Run button above in the menu of the notebook. That will run a cell and advance to the next one. There are also keyboard commands for doing this. You can view a whole list of keyboard shortcuts by going to the Help menu. Note the keyboard shortcuts are different depending on if you're in command mode or edit mode. When a cell is highlighted in blue, you're in command mode. In command mode, the arrow keys navigate from cell to cell, and you can do things like create new cells or delete cells. You can also evaluate cells by hitting Control-Enter or Shift-Enter. When we hit Shift-Enter, we're additionally advanced one cell. Edit mode, when we're in edit mode, the cell will be highlighted in green. In edit mode, our keystrokes will enter text into the cell. Additionally, arrow keys now navigate within the cell rather than between cells. So I can use the arrow keys to navigate up and down lines or left and right within a line. We can switch between command mode and edit mode by hitting Escape or Enter. Enter enters command mode. Escape escapes to command mode. Again, all these keyboard shortcuts are accessible from the Help menu. Note that all tasks can be accomplished using buttons in the menu. However, using keyboard shortcuts can be much faster and very helpful for quickly writing and executing code. This concludes the introductory video for the WorldQuant University Introduction to Data Science module. Your course will soon come online, and you'll be able to engage with the instructor through office hours and the discussion board, and your instructor will soon post lecture videos for the beginning of the course.